In today's video, I'll show you how to turn a baggy oversized sweater into a cute cutout sweater dress or tunic top that's perfect for the holiday season. So grab all the supplies you'll need coming up and we'll jump right in. For this tutorial, you'll need an oversized sweater that's a suitable length for you. I'm using a men's sweater in a size large that I picked up from my local thrift store. I'm going to start by removing the sleeves so I can work on altering the bodice of the sweater first. I'll need to alter the sleeves as well, so I remove them by cutting just below the seam instead of using a seam ripper. To alter the bodice, I tried on the sweater to locate and mark my waistline with a safety pin. The reason I need to mark my waist is that I'll be redesigning the sweater where the ribbing on the hem will become a waistband. I want the ribbon to sit above my waist, so I will need to factor in the width. It measures 3 inches, so I'm going to mark 3 inches above my waistline, then deduct a ½ inch for my allowance and cut. I went ahead and serged the raw edges to keep them from unraveling and turned the sweater inside out. In the back, I finished the edge by turning it under a ½ inch and sewing it in place using a long, narrow zigzag stitch. This is so that the knit fabric will still have some stretch. For the front, we're going to flip the lower half of the sweater and attach the ribbing to the top. To do that, I opened 1 inch of the side seams, then pinned it to the front. I suggest pinning the ends together first and working inwards. I sewed them together using a zigzag stitch as well. I used a small to medium zigzag stitch with a number 3 stitch length. While sewing, I did my best not to overstretch the fabric while feeding it through. I used the stripe on the edge of the ribbing as a guide, plus I wanted it to be hidden behind the seam for a cleaner finish on the front. Next, we're going to work on taking in the sides. This includes finishing the back. I'll need to do another try on to make my adjustments, so I'm going to temporarily pin the back pieces together by overlapping them at the waist as you see here. This time I put the dress on inside out. Using safety pins, I first pinned a couple inches away from my underarm, then down the sides to take in the extra fabric. Do your tweaks and make sure to leave enough room where you can take it off. This is the perfect time to test that. I did the same on the other side as well. Once I was happy with the fit, I checked the back to make sure it's laying flat. It was a little loose on top, so I'll take in a couple inches on the side. Let's first remove those couple extra inches in the back. I had already taken some out on the left side, so I'm going to do it on the right so both sides are symmetrical. Next, I'm going to outline my new side seams, but first I want to make sure the armholes are aligned. I then use my marking tool to trace my new side seam following the safety pins I placed earlier. Before sewing, make sure the top piece in the back is facing the wrong side of the ribbing, and you only need to overlap them by roughly 1 inch. And here's how my new side seams will look. Afterwards, I remove the extra fabric by cutting a ½ inch away from the seams. Now for the final step, we're going to add the sleeves back on. But before we do that, we'll need to make some adjustments. First, we want to make sure the underarm seams and shoulders are symmetrical. Next, we'll need to put on the dress one last time to get the length of the sleeve. It can be hard to do this part yourself, so you may want to ask someone for help. Pull the sleeve on, making sure that the sleeve seam is under the arm. Turn over the excess fabric at the armhole until the length is just right. Then tuck the sleeve under the armhole enough to pin them together. Mark roughly 5/8 inch from the fold for allowance. Cut along the marking to remove the excess fabric. To take in the sleeve seam, mark the width of the armhole on top, then draw a line from the marking to connect the sleeve cuff. Go ahead and remove the excess, doing the same for the other sleeve as well. Next, we're going to sew up the sides of both sleeves before attaching them to the armholes. By the way, I just want to quickly share that I iron my seams as I go along by pushing against the seam allowance to get my seams to lay flat. Now to attach the sleeve, place the armholes with right sides together and sew. Make sure to match up the underarm seams together first. And that is it, y'all. One other thing, and that is to try and reduce as much bulk from the seams as possible. As for the hem, I serged the raw edge, which is barely noticeable, so I'm gonna leave it as is for now. Let me know your thoughts on this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. Happy holidays. Until next year.